Beckwith, where were you when you first heard what had happened?
So I was on shift in the emergency room. I'm one of the physicians at Darnell. And so we were just finishing up a regular day shift at that point. About 1:30, my chief paramedic, Fred Reed, came in and let me know that there was reports of gunshots fired. Fred's one of our paramedic supervisors, and so I sent him to the scene with one of our other paramedic crews to basically do an assessment of the scene and to see if there was needs out there. Really prior to him even getting there, though, we started to receive patients. Most of these patients were just coming on their own vehicles or their buddies' vehicles. And that's usually the way things go in these kind of events. Usually the first casualties you get actually just get to your hospital before you can get to them. So we had about 6 or 8 that just showed up, all gunshot wounds in varying locations. And so from that, we initially just started seeing patients. We had a number of beds opened up and available, and so we were able to very quickly get those folks into a bed and seen by a staff. Relatively quickly, just in talking to those patients and what I was hearing from Fred Reed, we kind of got the impression this was going to be a large event with a lot of casualties. So at that point, we activated our mass cow plan. We recalled the emergency room. We recalled all the EMS staff. We coordinated with the hospital command to go ahead and actually do a hospital-wide mass cow recall. So very quickly, we actually had a lot of folks there, which was great. It was nice to have that extra support. In the ER, we were able to set up teams where each bed had, a doc, a nurse, a couple of medics, and so very quickly we were able to get about 14 beds up and running that were ready to receive. Once we started to get an idea that this was going to be a big event, I moved out to triage, which is out in front of the ER, and tried to coordinate our EMS assets, one from our Darnell assets, but also some of the other assets from around the county. We actually have great relationships with a number of different EMS and hospital agencies around the county, and those guys were just phenomenal in sending us resources. Really, before I had to call, we had helicopters airborne from a bunch of different helicopter services, lots of ambulances from other areas around the community, and so again, without having to ask for it, we had a lot of resources available very, very quickly, which was super helpful. Once I talked to Fred on scene, it was clear that initially the scene wasn't secure yet. It always makes you a little worried as a supervisor to have your people out there in an area where there's still shooting going on. And our guys were there very quickly, and so there was still some shooting going on when they got there. And it really speaks volumes of those paramedics. I have some great folks in that our EMS system here. They were able to very quickly start transporting. We did coordinate to send several of the patients from the scene directly to one of the nearby hospitals, Scott and White. We sent about 4 by air from just nearby the scenes. There's a helipad. We sent them from that helipad directly to Scott and White. The rest of the patients, though, came through Darnell. All told, I think we saw about 35 patients that came to Darnell to the emergency room. From the triage area, we sent, I think I sent about 10 to Scott and White and 5 to Metroplex. I tried to send folks who I thought would be stable for transport, so folks with leg injuries or other extremity injuries. I can tell you that one of the things that really caught my attention, there were a number of guys who came in with leg injuries or arm injuries who were very quick to say, hey, look, I've just got a leg. This person over here has a shot here, here, and here. They need to be addressed. And that's just great to see out of your shoulders, really keeping their composure and really helping us get to the folks who need help first. So again, we sent about 15 away to different facilities, and then we kept about 20 here at Darnell. In general, those were the folks we thought needed immediate attention, so chest injuries, belly injuries, some head injuries. The ER, I was just tremendously pleased with the staff. One of the worries I had sitting out in front of the ER was that patients were coming in very, very quickly, and I was worried we would get to a point where we had too many patients for the ER. And those guys were very quick at seeing patients, resuscitating them, and then moving them on to the ICU or the OR, wherever they needed to go, and getting another bed available for me. And that was just tremendous. They always stayed one bed ahead of me so that we never quite got to where we couldn't handle things. Though again, those guys just did a great job. One of the things that we did very early on in the course was we activated our mass cow plan. And so very quickly we had a lot of support from other staff in the hospital. We had really more folks than we knew what to do with, which was great. You'd rather have that kind of problem than other kind of problem. To the point where we had to actually start sending folks away at one point. So overall, I was just very pleased, both with our paramedics out front and our ER staff as well. Those guys just did a great job under some very, very stressful conditions.
How different is this, treating them in this hospital situation, than what you have to do when you're downrange?
One of the I think one of the benefits of being here is, clearly is the resources when you're downrange, and a lot of the docs in the ER today, or yesterday I should say, have had a lot of experience in mass casualty type situations, and that certainly showed yesterday. We had a lot of confidence and a lot of calm heads in that situation. But the big thing is that you have just a lot of resources. Again, I can't say enough. Coryell County, Bell County, Killeen Fire, Capital Ambulance, of course Scott and White and Metroplex, the other hospitals, were just super quick to send folks. Really before I'd even asked for it, I had birds in the air from other air services waiting to pick patients up. And that was just a tremendous amount of support, and really couldn't have done the job without those guys.
Right, you mentioned that working together and staying calm, that's what really made the situation so that you can get things going the way they need to be going.
Sure, and we work on those relationships ahead of time. We actually have a really a good system of communication throughout the counties around Fort Hood, communicating with other hospitals and other EMS systems. There's a formal process for that. We meet about once a month and discuss issues. And that's been a big help. There's a lot of familiar faces there at the scene and at the ER that I could turn to and say, hey, I need this guy moved here. And those guys were lucky split on doing that. So.
How hard was it to stay focused on helping the injured, knowing that maybe there were gunshots still being fired and your people were in danger?
Yeah, again, the biggest concern I had was, I just sent, a couple of my guys to the scene, and I was just getting reports back from the patients coming in that there was still a shooter out there. I think in relatively short order they got the scene controlled, but our guys were there pretty early. And so that's, as a supervisor, that's always your biggest concern. You hate to know that your people are in a bad spot. Having said that, those guys were very quick to just get to patients and get them off the scene. For me, that was certainly my biggest concern. The disasters like this are always sort of mass chaos, but there's sort of a thread of control that's in that chaos. Certainly, the folks that were working in the ER, the OR staffs, the anesthesiologists, the surgeons, the nurses, people who were involved with the care, for the most part, just kept a very, very level head, and were very much team oriented. Everybody was, helping out, and those kind of situations certainly bring a hospital together. I think we're certainly better for it. We do train for these kind of things. We actually we had a big disaster training event scheduled for today. We've put that on hold for now. But we certainly trained for them, and I was very pleased with the way folks responded to this.
Mm-hmm. Was there any difference in the feelings, I guess, that were in what you were feeling, and the fact that this happened here in a civilian type situation rather than in a war type situation?
Well, I think the thing that struck most of us was simply the number of casualties. Usually, when we've had these kind of events downrange, it's usually a blast type injury, and you have lots of casualties from that blast. I don't think any of us have seen this number of gunshot wounds at one time. So that really struck us, that there could be this many injured from one incident. Having said that, I don't know, you don't process it too much as it's going on. Folks there are very professional, and just kind of put the nose to the grindstone and get through it. And again, I think I was just really pleased with the guys behind me in the ER that, were always just able to stay one bed ahead of me, which was just super helpful.
What about later on when things calmed down and you got to, have you been home?
I did get home for a few hours. I hit the sack and went to bed and got some good sleep. It was a busy day. So I think, towards the evening, we had gotten most of the casualties through the ER. But you got to remember, those folks are by no means out of the woods. There's a lot of folks in the ICUs and in the wards, and still going back into the operating room for surgeries. And so you kind of find yourself migrating up to those areas to see if you can pitch in, and just because you want to sort of stay involved and help out. And so that's what most of us did last night, is we just kind of lingered about the hospital looking where we could help out. And, there's a lot of folks doing great things for those soldiers right now, both here at Darnell and also again at Scott and White and Metroplex hospitals. And their care is ongoing, and we certainly will make sure we give them everything we can. So.
How has this whole experience affected how you feel about what you do?
I think most of us in the emergency room, you hate to say that your best days are when someone else is having their worst day, and days like this I think really reinforce we love our job. We love taking care of folks when they're in bad shape. You obviously hate to see these things happen to folks, but I'll tell you, you really feel good at the end of the day, you know, about what you do for a living. And certainly, I think all of us at the end of yesterday felt really pleased with, you know, what we were able to do, and then the folks we were able to help. And so I felt very good about that.
How do you think the Army community will go forward from this incident?
You know, the Fort Hood actually has a lot of resources in place for critical incident stress problems, combat stress, those sorts of things. They've actually, you know, really made an effort over the last couple of years to improve those things. This is tough, you know. It's a lot of people involved. Again, it's really hard to see this thing happen, you know, here stateside. But I'll tell you, there are a lot of resources here, and this is a really tight-knit community. Folks here really pull together, and so I think, you know, this is going to bring the fort together quite a bit. I suspect we'll be seeing a lot of folks, you know, in the next days and weeks to come that, you know, need to get some counseling and need to get in and talk to folks about this, and we're going to make sure that we have those resources available for them.
Yes, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Well, you bet, guys. Appreciate it.